YouTube Live, and I'm trying this again. I apologize if you hopped on earlier and got like a little snippet of a video. I don't know for sure what happened. It just all of a sudden said it was not connected and wouldn't let me do anything. So now I'm all like, I don't know, all stuff is everywhere. So sorry about all the commotion. Like I said, hopefully I'm live and I'm good and the video is going to stay on this time. So, all right. So again, I apologize if you were here earlier and the video abruptly ended, but goodness, I don't know for sure what happened. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining today. And again, I'm trying to move stuff around here because I can see the video is all sorts of crazy today. So, all right, let's try this again. So I'm going to try to show you how I made a fun little card. Hey, Sandra, thanks for joining today. A fun little card with the all bundled up stamp set from Stampin' Up, which is one of the fun ones from the July to December 2022 mini catalog. So this is designed, I think it's, I don't know, more of a Christmas related stamp set, but I've switched it and I turned it into a birthday card. So I just put a birthday sentiment inside it and we're calling it birthday. So it is what it is. All right, so this is the stamp set, and again, it's a cute little stamp set. I love the little moose image and the little raccoon, and well, the bunny and the bird are cute too. But I really love the moose image. So hey, Karen, thanks for joining today. I'm sorry if you hopped on earlier to my previous video that was on for about 3 seconds and then froze. So hopefully this one is all good. So hey, Carol, thanks for joining. So again, this is the fun little stamp set that we've got, and again, it's good for Christmas, winter birthdays, winter anything. So all right. So that is the stamp set. The stamp that I used on the inside is actually from the Charming Sentiments stamp set. And I used the little wishing you the happiest of birthdays for the inside of the card. And again, like I said, just made it into a birthday card. You could definitely do this as a, I don't know, whatever you wanted it to be, friend card, anything like that. So a couple other things that I used on here. I used the banner, this one, kind of the second, I don't know, this shorter, taller banner to cut out the sentiment on here. These are the Stylish Shapes dies, and they are in the current annual catalog from Stampin' Up. And then I also used one of the stitched rectangle dies to cut out the moose image, and it is the 4th largest of the wider rectangles, if that makes sense. So, so these are 2 sets of dies that if you don't have them, you might as well just get them because you're going to love them and you're going to use them on everything. At least I do anyway. So, all right, so we've got those 2 die sets, and that's about it. Just a little designer paper, a little coloring, and that's all there really is to this card. A couple things before we get going. Stampin' Up! Has their weekly deals going on through the 28th of September yet. So there were some new ones that posted yesterday, or actually they came out Wednesday afternoon, but new deals that posted. So go take a peek at those and make sure you're picking any of those up. If you are interested, just a handful of things. I don't know, it's ribbons and papers and I don't know, embellishments, that sort of thing. So lots of fun things on sale for, I don't know, about I'd say 10 to 20% off. So go take a peek at those. Stampin' Up! Also has some fun new dies that they have available only for the month of September, and they are calling them the Perfect Partners dies. These are all stamp sets that are in either the current annual catalog or the current mini catalog. And they brought out some die sets just for fun, just for the month of September that coordinate. So you can actually get just the die sets if you already have the stamp set, or you can buy them together and get the bundled pricing on them, which is kind of nice, but it only runs through the end of September. So you've got about 1 more week, and they're available while supplies last. So I'm assuming supplies are going to last through the end of the month since I haven't heard anything other than that, but I would not count on that. So make sure you're grabbing these die sets up before the end of September so you can get them if you want them. And then the last thing is World Card Making Day. Our team is doing an event. Again, we've done this the last couple of years. They've been a lot of fun. We just hop on and people take turns going live, sort of from about 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time until about 9 o'clock in the evening Eastern time. And it's Saturday, October 1st, and we set up a Facebook page, and it's an event. And like I said, there's some little giveaways, some fun things that we do through the day, and just lots of card making projects. Stampin' Up! Actually is doing an event from 4 to 7 Eastern time, which is 2 to 5 Mountain time, whether that turns into be your time zone. But they're also doing an event, and our event is going to be running before that and after that. But they are doing a World Card Making Day event as well. And they are going to be using these 3 bundles in particular for their card making projects. So the Warm Welcome is a new one from the upcoming January to June 2023 mini catalog. The Cottage Rose and Cottage Wreaths are both available currently from Stampin' Up! hopefully, if they aren't on the back order list. But if you order any of these 3 bundles between now and October 1st, you're going to get a free pack of Pearl Basic Jewels embellishments, iridescent pearl basic jewels embellishments. So, sorry about that. So those are going to be, again, they're going to be using these for their projects. And I know a couple of the team members that are sharing projects on World Card Making Day for our event are also planning to use the same set of bundles. So hopefully you'll go away with tons of ideas for those projects. All right, that for those stamp sets, not projects. Anyway, I can tell it's going to be one of those days because, like I said, having to restart the video already, and it's never a good way to start the project when you're frantic and scrambling and trying to redo things. So, all right, so let's take a deep breath and get started on the cards. So this is Balmy Blue cardstock, and this is one of those cards that'll either work with your standard book fold card if that's your preferred card base. This definitely will work on one of those. My preferred card base are the top fold ones. I like those better, and it's just my personal opinion, so my personal preference. So you can use whichever one you prefer. And this one is cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. And then I've got a piece of the Storybook Gnomes Designer Series paper. And this is, again, from the mini catalog, and it's fun little gnomes on the back. But I love the snowflake print. Thought that was perfect with the little moose. And I can see that I've already forgotten my multi-purpose liquid glue, so I'm going to try to put this on here with Stampin' Seal, and hopefully I won't make a mess, which knowing how things are going today, I probably will. But hopefully I'll get it stuck on here fairly straight. Usually if I start with one edge and go across, usually I can get it on here straight, but eek. Okay, I think I did it. All right, it's reasonably straight. Okay, just to adhere that to the card front, this piece is cut to about 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and all the measurements will be on my blog tomorrow, so you can go take a peek at that. And all right, so hey, Carol, did I say hey to Carol? If I didn't, hey, Carol, thanks for joining today. I appreciate you being here. You get to watch me make a mess today. I don't know. Like I said, I think it's going to be one of those days. So I did use the stitched rectangle dies to cut this piece. This is also from the Storybook Gnomes Designer Series paper, and I used the second largest of the smaller rectangles, the narrow rectangles, to cut this, and again did that ahead of time. So just going to adhere that with a little Stampin' Seal to the card front. And I intentionally want this to be a little bit off-centered and a little bit lower, probably down, I think about right there, and a little bit off-centered. This was for a sketch challenge, and that was how the sketch was laid out, as one little piece down here, a little bit lower. So, all right. Next thing we're going to do is stamp the moose, and I've got the moose here on a block in Tuxedo Black Memento ink, and I'm going to ink up the moose image and try not to bang the camera around too much as I'm doing that. Maybe I'll just hold it up like that, and then I can really give it a good tap. All right, and we're going to do a little coloring with Stampin' Blends, so that is why I'm using the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. Stampin' Up! Has a couple of different black inks. They have Stays On Jet Black, and they have the Tuxedo Black Memento. And Tuxedo Black Memento you can actually use with the Stampin' Blends. If you use Stays On with the Stampin' Blends, they're both alcohol-based inks, and you'll end up with kind of a smeary, yucky mess. So that's why you want to use water-based ink with your Stampin' Blends. So, all right, I have got, that is not the one I want. I've got light soft suede that I'm going to start to color the moose with. So I'm going to color just his whole body, his ears, legs, all that stuff. Again, just putting the color on. This is a fun little image, so I did not spend a ton of time doing a lot of blending on it. Just basically kind of colored it and did a little bit, added a little bit more color, used a lot of the light markers on this one rather than, like I said, spending a lot of time doing the blending and whatever. I just did the light ink and colored over it a second time in a few areas with the light soft suede Stampin' Blends. Just kind of trying to make sure that I get ink all over his little, or her little, I'm not sure if it's a him or a her. I think, is it the hims that have the big antlers? I don't know. I'm not a moose expert. I just know it's cute. So, all right, coloring that down. Here we go. And then I've just got the face left. The only thing I want to be careful of is to make sure that I don't color over the eyes. If you do accidentally color over something, you don't mean to. Stampin' Up! Does have a color lifter, which is an awesome little marker that you can lift off and kind of move around color if you accidentally go outside the lines. It also works great just for lightening the colors as well. And so definitely that's one of those markers that if you don't have it, you will want it. Because if you accidentally scribble outside the lines or kind of make a mess, the Stampin', the color lifter actually will kind of push the blend ink back inside the line. So it's a great one to have. So again, if you're going to do any coloring with blends, I definitely recommend having it. So, and I'll show you in a second, actually, there's another way that you can use the blends or the color lifter. And so I'm going to come back in here with a little bit of the dark soft suede and just kind of color along the edges. And underneath the little belly here and around the scarf. And again, I'm not doing a lot of really detailed blending on anything. Just kind of want to get, have a few darker places, a few lighter places, and that's going to be the extent of the fantastic coloring that I'm doing here. I actually think I'm going to go over the whole face again here because I've got some sort of lines that I don't like the look of in here. Just try to get it a little more even. There we go. I like that a little bit better. And then I may do the same thing back here on the back of the little moose. After I said I was going to color only in a few areas, I'd changed my mind. So, which we could do that. So, hey Pat, thanks for joining from Alabama. And I'm glad you like this, Carol. I think it's such a cute little image. I love the little moose. And I know they're not like kind and gentle animals for real, but I like that we can make them look that way in the fun images with it. So I've got light crumb cake that I'm going to use to color the antlers. And again, just going to color the antlers and the hooves, however you say it. So, oh, don't forget his right ear. Yes, you're right, Carol. And I would have found it eventually, but yeah. Thanks for mentioning it. I'll pull out the soft suede here in a second and color that back in because, yeah, that's what happens when I start coloring and talking and then I forget what I'm doing. And anyway, all right. I am going to put a little bit of the crumb cake on the inside of the ears. That's when I would have noticed that I hadn't colored it, is when I did that. And color in the little hooves down here. And again, like I said, this is a fun little image, so I didn't spend a lot of time coloring and, making it look really perfect. Actually, I colored the mouth with a different color. So let me come back here with the light soft suede. Hey, Lonnie, thanks for joining from Florida. I bet you're having a beautiful day down there. Hopefully some of the heat is starting to go away. We actually had kind of a cool morning here in New Jersey. It wasn't like freezing cold, but it was a little frosty this morning when the kids headed out to school. They both had a jacket on, which it's been a little while since we've had to do that. So, all right, so I've got Night of Navy, and I'm using the light Night of Navy Stampin' Blends marker. And I'm just going to color in every other one of the little stripes in the scarf on the little moose. So you can kind of take your pick on which ones you want to color. If you want it to be different colors like I'm doing, you can definitely, like I said, just kind of pick and choose which ones you want to do. And if you don't like the two-tone, you can always color it in all one color or leave white in between or whatever it is you want to do. So that's the fun thing about coloring them. You get to decide. All right, and then I've got Balmy Blue, and I'm going to start with the light Balmy Blue, and I'm going to color in the hat on the little moose. All right. I almost colored in the edge of the antler there. Hopefully, if that looks too crazy, I will fix it with bring back a little bit more of the crumb cake. And then I'm just going to come back in here and fill in the opposite stripes with the Balmy Blue. The one nice thing about the Balmy Blue marker is because it is a lighter in color than the Night of Navy, I can kind of scribble over everything and it's not really a big deal. So if I accidentally go outside the lines with the Balmy Blue, it's not a huge deal because you can just, the Night of Navy is dark enough that it covers it. So learning how to color with blends, yes, I do pretty simple coloring. I know some people they can make incredibly beautiful images with blends. I kind of lean towards a little simpler. I usually start with the lights and then come back in with the dark and then a little bit more of the light. That's generally how I color, and that seems to work reasonably well for me. But as you play with them, you'll definitely learn. I always recommend starting with floral images just because, or nature images, I should say, not just floral images. So greenery, any of that sort of thing, because it's a little bit forgiving and it doesn't have to be, I don't know, so realistic. People are, to me, are definitely the hardest to color. So I usually try to, I would wait on doing anything that is other than like a cartoonish type person character, you know what I mean, a cartoonish type person. I'd wait a minute and, play around a little bit, get used to the way the markers work, and then, venture out and do things that are a little bit more difficult. But like I said, fun images like this and greenery, anything, flowers, they're all really easy. All right, so pale papaya is what I use. The light pale papaya is what I colored in the little mouth with. And I'm not sure that you can tell, it's not a huge difference between the crumb cake and the pale papaya. So if you prefer crumb cake for the inside of his little mouth, you could definitely do that, which I almost did color it with crumb cake because I was not paying attention. Last thing that I did was I took my light gray granite marker, and because I didn't want the moose to look like he was floating on thin air, I just colored a little kind of a shadow underneath his feet. And most of it ends up being covered up by the sentiment anyway, but I still like it to be there. So, and I said I was going to show you quickly one thing you could do with the color lifter is when you're doing these types of shadowy things, you can come back in with the color lifter and just lighten it up and kind of stretch out the shadow a little bit with the color lifter. So I like to do that when I'm putting in those types of shadows. I don't know if it looks more realistic or not, but he's a goofy moose image. And it's light enough that I'm not sure how well you can even see it now that I've colored it. But hopefully you can see a little bit of a shadow underneath his little hooves. All right, let's do some die cutting. So I'm going to grab it was the fourth largest of the stitched rectangle dies here. And I'm going to cut out the little moose image. My die cutting machine is over here to my right off screen because it wiggles my table incredibly if I have it on the table with me when I'm trying to do a video. So I'll be off screen for 1 second, but yep, just going to run this through the die cutting machine. The one tip that I have is when you're cutting with these larger rectangles, or really anything that's a larger die that has a flat edge on it, try to run it through your die cutting machine at a little bit of an angle so that the point goes through first rather than having it hit straight, having the rollers hit straight against the top of this, because then there's a big bump if you end up doing that, where if you turn it just a hair and it goes on at an angle, it's much easier to roll it through. So, hey, Penny, thanks for joining today. All right, let me go do some die cutting here. Hopefully this will roll through pretty quickly. All right. So there he is. And I've got a little piece of balmy blue cardstock, and this is cut to about 2 3/4 by 4 1/8, and it should fit and layer fairly nicely underneath my little die cut image here. I'm going to use Stampin' Seal to stick these two together, and then a couple little Stampin' Dimensionals to stick it to the card front. So, all right. Do a bit more close-up while you are coloring. May help. I could try to do that. The only issue is I'm not sure how I could get it really lifted up to color because I need a solid surface underneath it, but I can see if I can figure out a way to do it. But I don't know. It's just, like I said, the markers are pretty easy to use. Like I said, just kind of, the light color is the one I use to sort of flood the image and color the solid parts of it, or color it almost completely in, and then just come back in and put dark sort of around the edges, and that's usually how I do it, and then take the light and blend them back together. So, all right, so there we go. We got the two pieces stuck together with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Next up is we're going to stamp a little sentiment here on, I almost call it Pretty Peacock, and that would have been the way wrong color. This is Pacific Point cardstock, and we're going to heat emboss, so it's going to get a little bit loud, but we've got Versamark ink and the sentiment from the All Bundled Up stamp set. Just going to stamp it here on the Pacific Point cardstock, and then sprinkle it with white embossing powder. All right. And I store my embossing powders in the little, this is a Ziploc bin, but any of these little plastic bins, because it kind of contains it, keeps it, I can put the lid back on it so that when I go to actually turn on the heat tool, I don't end up with embossing powder shooting everywhere, because I've done that before and it's a big mess. So, all right, got the Stampin' Up heat tool, which has got 2 settings on it. There's a level 1 setting for drying and a level 2 setting for heat embossing. So the level 1 setting is you can use for things like watercoloring, or if you're doing, I don't know, using an ink that takes a little bit longer to dry and you want to speed up that process a little bit, you can use the level 1 setting. The level 2 setting is the one you use for heat embossing, and it definitely gets hotter. It does take a second to heat up, so that's usually why I run through this, say the spiel as I'm telling you about the two different settings. So I'm going to take that and point it here at my paper. And as you're heat embossing, you don't have to hold it, you don't have to like swing it around and do lots of movement with it, but you don't want to hold it in one spot for a really long time because you can actually burn your embossing powder. And hopefully you saw it turn kind of a brighter white and got to be smooth and shiny, and that means that your embossing is done. So you don't want to overheat your embossing powder because you can definitely burn that as well. So, all right, so there we go. Let me grab the second, well, I don't know if this is the second, I don't know, second smallest. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But it's the shorter, a little bit wider die, banner die from the Stylish Shapes dies. And I'm just going to, again, run this through my die cutting machine over here off to my right. So I'll be back in 1 second. And maybe I'll be back in 1 second. Oh, there we go. All right, so there's our die cut sentiment. And then I'm going to grab some Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to put it under, just making sure that I'm putting it under this side and a Stampin' Dimensional under the other side. So I've got Stampin' Seal, hopefully here, if I can get it to stick on. There we go. And I cut my Stampin' Dimensionals in half. If you prefer to use whole ones, you may want to put a mini dimensional on this one because I think a whole Stampin' Dimensional might not fit in here very well, but if you can get a whole one to work, that's great. So, all right, let me flip this over, and I'm going to slide it right over here on top of my little moose feet that I've just so handily colored in and put the little shadow underneath and then covered them up with the sentiment on here. And then the last thing that I added on the card front is a little bit of sparkle. So use one of the fine sparkle adhesive back gems. And I just picked one of them that I think that's balmy blue. I'm not even entirely sure. It's the blue colored gem. And I used the smaller one of those and just put it here on the sentiment. So that's it for the card front. Inside of the card, I kept reasonably simple as well, with just a sentiment from the Charming Sentiments stamp set and Pacific Point ink. And again, just going to ink that up with Pacific Point. Stamp it here, hopefully straight and centered. Looks like we got reasonably straight, reasonably centered. That's kind of what I shoot for when I'm doing this. I'm going to close this up before I stick my fingers in it. And then this is just a little piece of the Gnomes Designer Series, the Storybook Gnomes Designer Series paper that I've trimmed off when I did the cut for the card front. And so I'm just going to add that here on the inside of the card. This is basic white cardstock, if I didn't say that I'm stamping on, and it's cut to about 4 by 5 1/4. And again, all the measurements and details will be out on my blog tomorrow, so you can take a peek at it then, and I will link up to the blog post as soon as it goes live around 8 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow morning. And so I'll put it in the video description so you'll be able to easily find it. If you want to go take a peek at the measurements or anything else about the card, you can definitely go do that. So, thanks so much, Karen. The moose is my favorite out of that stamp set too. I think it's just really, he's too cute. All right, so adhere that to the inside of the card. I'm going to close it up here and do a quick crease across the top. And again, like I said, if you prefer the side fold cards, this would definitely fit on your standard A2 card, which is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So whatever your preferred card base is, this one will work. So thanks so much for joining today. That is all that I had, and I appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy I don't know, here it's sunny and kind of beautiful outside. It's like 65 degrees and sunny, which is perfect for me. So hopefully y'all are having the same kind of a weekend. And I will be back on Tuesday around 2 o'clock Eastern time out on my Facebook page live. And then I'll be back here next week, Friday, around 2 o'clock Eastern time on YouTube live. So hopefully y'all can catch me again. Talk to you soon.